Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there, welcome along. It is Business Connections Live. It is week number 92. Lovely to have your company as always. We are live. It is a Monday lunchtime. So put down your pen and enjoy another hour of great information if you're a small to medium scale enterprise, if you're a small business, if you're a large business, if you're a multinational, if you're a blue chip company. We've got information that's going to be of interest to you. Now don't forget as well, you can always watch all our other shows, all 92 of them. There's over 100 hours worth of content sitting on the Business Connections Live website if you want to get more information to help your business grow and to be successful. Our guest on today's show is Martin Hawley, founder of Boardcircle. Keep wanting to say Boardcircle. My guest, Martin Hawley from Boardcircle, which helps small and medium-sized companies to experience a non-exec director by sharing some of the director's time as a non-exec with each other. It's a fantastic idea. You've probably heard about non-execs before. Well, we're going to give you the real insight into it, and maybe perhaps, does your company need a non-exec director? What would you benefit from it? And have you ever fancied yourself being a non-exec director? Maybe sharing your expertise and your experience with other businesses and other companies. That's what today is all about. So, non-exec directors. Let's welcome our guests and say hello, Martin. Martin, lovely to have you with us.
Steve, it's lovely to be with you.
It's something that we often hear about. It's something that some people aspire to, being a non-exec director. But fundamentally, what is a non-exec director?
A non-exec director is very similar in a lot of respects to an executive director. So when you become a non-exec, you have the same duties and responsibilities as an executive director. That is a statutory director in the business, so your name goes to Companies House. The difference really in a non-exec is that they're really part of the board and doing the more strategic thinking, really looking after the board side of things. And it depends how a non-exec works in different sizes of business. So in a large business, it's very formal, there's lots of process. A non-exec might be involved in investigations in the company, they might be on an audit committee or a remuneration committee. So it's very sort of committee focused. As you go down the spectrum and you go to smaller companies, it starts to get more hands-on. But they still have the same basic governance role. They're interested in what happens in the company from the point of view from decision making, compliance with regulations. Are they thinking strategically enough? So there's quite a lot going on, but maybe a little bit more hands-on in a smaller company.
Is it very much the companies sometimes look at it as well, that they want to bring somebody in with a fresh pair of eyes that kind of oversees, just comes from a different perspective in business?
Yeah, I think that's a really important and essential part of the role, is actually coming in, as you say, with a fresh pair of eyes. You're independent and you're objective. And it's almost like you're holding a mirror up to the existing board and saying, guys, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but here's how it looks from an objective point of view. And I think that's probably, for me, is like 50% of the value of a non-exec, is somebody who's intelligent and can see what's going on and reflect it back to the board. In the same way that an athletics coach might say, oh, adjust yourself a little bit here. But he's working with the whole board.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look in detail at what the key qualities are for someone to be a non-exec,
yep,
and what questions you should be asking yourself if you're a business owner and you've already got an existing board, and whether you actually need a non-exec to come on and what the benefits to your business would be. But before we get on to that, let's find out a little bit about your business and what Boardcircle is all about. So tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you start? What's your background?
So my background, I started as a scientist. I did physics and I did some work in science for a few years, and then I got into consulting. So I've had a long career in consulting, and I specialised a little bit in aviation consulting, and About probably about 10 years ago, one of my consulting roles, in addition to the consulting, I had a functional role as HR director in a previous business, and I used to look at the Sunday Times sort of papers and see what was being said generally about HR. It was always a good source, and I found that there was a lot of adverts for non-execs and a lot of discussion about non-execs, but it was very much at the large company level. And that got me thinking about, well, if it works for a large company, would it work for a small company? So I started to investigate that. And I also realised that non-execs can be a real bonus to a company, but there seemed to be a threshold of companies taking them on. And it tended to be, there's some research done about this, that companies, until they're about 50 people, of size 50 people or about 5 million turnover, didn't really tend to take on a non-exec. Only about 20 to 40% of them did. So that got me thinking, well, what is there in this threshold? And it's a very transactional business at the moment. So people hire a non-exec like they would hire an employee. And I thought, well, if people are benefiting from non-execs and non-execs are benefiting from being non-execs, is there some sort of collaborative model that we could get into? And now you'd think of that in terms of the sharing economy or collaborative consumption. But really I was thinking more about just peer-to-peer exchange of non-execs between companies. That's a win-win situation.
So, I mean, looking at your formation of your business and the way your company has developed, is it really a non-exec recruitment company? Is that what it is? Is that what you kind of do? Is that the way you look at it? Because I know that some of the skills that you have within your business are from the recruitment industry. Yeah. So how would you define the business now? Do you go out there, do you search targeted people and say to them, right, you would be perfect to be a non-exec director in this particular industry? Is that how you work?
We don't think of ourselves as a recruitment company, but there are clear characteristics that we have that are like a recruitment company. And one of them is really, once you start to get proximity between a company and a potential non-exec, is really working out if they're the right match for each other. So we have a web platform that brings people together to a certain extent, but then to actually bring them the whole way, we want to make sure that the chemistry is right between people and the right sort of people.
And that's really important, isn't it? I would imagine that chemistry, and that really is the difference, isn't it? That it isn't about filling a role or filling a function. It's about people and people, isn't it?
Yeah. I think in any board, if you just had the executive directors, you'd want good chemistry between everybody there so that people accept and like each other and they can work well with each other. It's the same with bringing a non-exec in. Perhaps harder for a non-exec because they have to come in into an already established team, and they have to be quite charismatic and sort of work with people and create rapport themselves in a very quick period of time. But that chemistry is really important.
Do some people see it as being a non-exec, that they're really going in and they're being like a mentor to a business?
I think so. I think it's close to being a mentor, but the difference in a non-exec is that they're, if you like, they're mentoring the whole board. So if they have any mentoring or coaching, so it's not just one-to-one. It's the whole board there but that can be an advantage as well. They're not there to favour maybe the MD who might be the founder. They're going to work with all of the directors there. So it's a very sort of levelling type approach as well.
What's the big mistake that both non-exec, well, first of all, non-execs, what's the big mistake that they make when they think to themselves, yes, they'd like to be a non-exec? Do they get it wrong? Are people's perception of being a non-exec correct, do you think?
Good question, actually. I think possibly one of the mistakes that people can make is somebody might go into a board and they don't understand the context of the business, or they go in and think that they have some sort of formal authority, which they don't necessarily have that. And so the two issues there. One is that, and I've heard some real horror stories actually from people who are retired from a corporate and they're not actually used to doing things and getting things done themselves. They have people to do things. So they go in and they say, you need to spend a lot of money on something, and they spend a lot of money, and then the business is suddenly in trouble because they shouldn't have spent a lot of money. And this is really understanding the context of a business, that if you take somebody who hasn't got the flexibility and the adaptability from a large corporate down into a small company, they may just get it wrong because they haven't really understood what it's like to be in a small growing company.
And is that really what your business is doing? It's making certain that you get a perfect match for those businesses?
Yeah. We want part of that match is, people might look good on paper, but we really want them to get the business. They understand, yes, I understand this business. I know they're not doing everything perfectly, but actually I'm not either. So I'm going to work with them and say, yeah, this stuff you're doing is great. Have you thought about doing this? But I'm not going to overload them with tons of best practice and worry about that they should be writing papers, board papers to each other and that sort of thing. So I think it's really about getting somebody who really just gets the company, gets the context right, has the charisma and can create rapport and be a friend to the board, but a critical friend to them.
All right, well, listen, we'll come back. We'll talk more about what the company should expect. And I'm sure they must put down their shopping list of what they're looking for when they're looking for a non-exec. I remember the days when we were putting together boards for, in fact, local radio stations. And of course, what you would do is you would look for individual and different skills that people would actually have so that you would bring them in and they'd be part of your board. And then the non-execs sometimes the non-execs were brought in nearly as figureheads in some instances because you just wanted that name on your board. I'm sure that must happen quite a lot for companies where they're nearly vanity non-execs.
Yep.
So you must see that.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the great influences in Boardcircle was Luke Johnson. He wrote a piece about non-execs and boards probably 7 or 8 years ago, and we've got one of his quotes on our website, which is never recruit the grandee, always recruit the up and comer, the hungry up and comer, and that was really influential in our thinking about Boardcircle.
There it is. Always recruit the hungry up and comer, but you had to be quick because it's flown by. Too late. Right. That's another quote coming up there. You're watching Business Connections Live. It is programme number 92. More about this now. If you are thinking about being a non-exec director, or if you'd like to be, maybe you'd like to consider it. Maybe you're finding in your career at the moment that you've now actually got a little bit more time. Maybe you feel you have the skills that you'd like to share. Maybe you've seen the mistakes over the years and you'd like to stop other people from doing that. Or if you are a business and you think to yourself, do we need a non-exec? We're going to look at the criteria on that. What are the key things you should be as a business thinking about with your board? Do you need a non-exec on that board, and what benefits can it bring to your business? We'll be talking about that in just a few moments' time. But before that, it keeps exciting here. On last week's show, we spoke to Warren Cass. He's the founder of Business Scene, a national business community for entrepreneurs and also business owners focused on helping them build a more successful business. Fascinating insight. Warren is a fantastic speaker. Regardless of what organisation he's with, a real insight into what Business Scene was all about, but also a real insight into how you can maybe maximise the return on your business when it comes to maybe networking or where you should be investing or who you should be talking to. That's what we were talking about in last week's edition of Business Connections Live. Here's Warren Cass. My guest on today's show is Warren Cass. He's the founder of Business Scene, a national business community for entrepreneurs and business owners focused on helping them build more successful businesses.
Rather than just being something where somebody would turn up and maybe try and sell something at a networking event because they don't understand the environment, we've tried to create a culture which is much more about supporting each other. So you're actually leveraging the advice and the expertise in the room rather than it just being about business generation. I find it really unusual in the UK that you need a license to fish, yet you can start a business, be VAT registered, be employing staff all within a few days without any idea of your obligations as an employer. People will start a business, they may have been doing that particular job for somebody else for the last 20 years but decided now it's time for me to make my own way. So they take that expertise, they don't necessarily know how to sell that service or market that service or even run the business function around that service. They're good at that service. First reason, I think that vast majority of people go to, when they're starting in networking, they go to lots of events once. So they go to lots of different networks once. And because they don't necessarily walk away with business, they think it's not working for them. And what they fail to understand, it's not about shallow relationships, it's about deep relationships. So networking can really provide money when you get to know people over a period of time and therefore build trust. So I do encourage everybody to shop around. Go and look at several groups, feel the vibe in the room, see how you're welcomed and how relevant you are to them. So essentially we've built benefits into 4 categories, which we have as growth, savings, protection and support. And so, because we recognise that the type of organisation that comes to us, yes, wants to save money. In fact, what's lovely, just in 2 or 3 of those benefits alone, in fact, a single benefit can save the membership fee, whether it's from merchant services to savings on your insurance, whatever it might be. Well, hello everyone, Warren Cass from Business Scene. That's www.business-scene.com. And I'll share with you a couple of quick points on networking, just to summarise the networking aspect of it. So you may be looking to start a business, you may already be running a business, but the quality of the company you keep, your credibility by association is really, really important. And building a network that does much more than perhaps give you a potential source of leads, but one that helps you filter the bad ideas from the good, one that perhaps gives you some sanity when you're dealing with issues within the business. And the friendships that can come from it will be very, very powerful for you moving forward. My suggestion is that you go out and find a networking group or 2 that suit you well, but commit to them and do them regularly rather than going to lots and lots of places once, because we're moving away from shallow relationships to deeper trusted relationships. While you're there, think strategically about the type of people you want to develop those relationships with. So, you know, who's more aligned, who has a similar client base, or and maybe is in an industry that kind of relates. And spend some time with those and get to know them offline as well. The thing about most networking and where most people fail is when it comes to the follow-up. Follow-up is incredibly important. Again, if you promise to do something and don't do it, it can be damaging for your reputation. Trust me, I know from personal experience, when you become incredibly busy and don't get around to following up on one of those 2 things, it can be damaging. So make sure you've got a system. I like to write on people's business cards. So if I've obligated to do something, I'll write on that and I'll try and make a point of getting it done within a couple of days beyond the event. And the reason for that is quite simply, money loves speed. The longer you leave it, the colder the lead gets and the worse that's going to be for you. Whilst at the networking event though, as I say, think strategically and remember there's an etiquette to it. So don't just come into an event and interrupt people's conversations, or if people are closed body language, leave them alone. They're probably having a serious conversation, you're actually interrupting, and your first impression will be one that's rude. So look for open body language and always take that one step back from the group and make eye contact with the person who's speaking. They will naturally pause in their conversation and invite you in. And at that point, make sure you talk to everybody, that you're inclusive. My last point from a networking is about being interested, not interesting. The best way you can accelerate the whole rapport process is ask lots of questions and be really interested in people. It makes a far better impression.
Great organisation, actually. That's Business Scene, and that was Warren Cass, of course. Now, my guest on today's show is Martin Hawley, founder of Boardcircle, which helps small and medium-sized companies to experience a non-exec director by sharing some, it says here, of the director's time as a non-exec with each other. We were talking just before we heard from Warren Cass. There is an elephant in the room. I keep referring to them as he's. And you mentioned earlier on he's, but it isn't he's, is it?
No,
I mean the glass ceiling has been long removed when it comes to non-execs, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What kind of mix do you think when it comes between ladies and gentlemen?
I don't see why it shouldn't be 50-50 in terms of what we're trying to achieve, and not diversity male-female, but also in ethnic minorities as well. So I think there should be a complete mix, and I think with small and medium-sized businesses and what we're doing with Boardcircle, there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to achieve that. And we didn't make the company about diversity, but we didn't want to make it an issue. We just wanted to be diverse. That's how. In the past, have you seen a resistance to the sexes, do you think? I don't think there's a resistance. I think that people get a non-exec maybe through the old boy network, and they get their first non-exec. So there's some sort of connection gets there. And then they take on more and more. And it tends to be, I think in the past, that men have done that. And there's actually an IOD video where one of their trainers says it's the last bastion of the tap on the shoulder. Now that that might be the case in the larger companies, but in a small company, maybe with a first-time non-exec, there's absolutely no reason it has to be like that. But I think it's not a conscious thing. Maybe it's subconscious bias there, which is an important thing to remember, that can happen. But I think as well, people are caught up in, oh, somebody's been a non-exec, so therefore it's easy to choose somebody with the past experience of a non-exec. And our model is different. We're saying it doesn't matter if they haven't been a past non-exec, because a lot of it is going to come from their executive experience and them learning on the job, adjusting to the role of being a non-executive.
All right, then, there are two sides to this story. There's obviously the business that is looking for a non-exec, and how they identify what they're looking for. Do they really need a non-exec on there? And you know, what benefits it's going to be. But then there's also the person who is putting themselves forward to be a non-exec. Let's kick off there first of all. What do you think the key skills are, the key qualities that they need to have to be a non-exec director?
I think they have to be a good executive director. So they have to be good with people, they have to be knowledgeable about their particular subject, and they have to have that sense of strategy, and some sort of part of them has to be thinking about governance in their own company. And I think so that when they go into another company, they can look at that company through the lens of purely being a director. So in their own company, they might be, most of the time, they might be just managing things, and then occasionally they put their director's hat on. And what we do with Boardcircle is we're giving them the opportunity to go from mostly managing to 100% directing when they go to another company, and they think very much like a director. And I think that's really what we're looking for, that somebody has that sort of strategic director level thinking. They're playing a different role when they go in, so they're being a non-exec is a different role, but I think it's the same sort of person who's suitable for it. It might not be everybody, it might not be everybody's cup of tea. And if you go into another company, you can't go in and, you might have command authority in your own company, and you might be able to tell people to make you a cup of tea and things like that. But actually, you go into another company, you don't have that. So it's a different style of leadership then. You have to lead collaboratively and build consensus over things.
I kind of touched on it earlier on. I mean, do you sometimes get people that will come to you and it's more of a vanity thing that they're doing, that they want to be able to say they're a non-exec?
Yeah.
So how do you wheedle them out?
They actually...
they wheedle themselves out.
They do, actually. We're very polite to people, but we do get... we've had a very interesting conversation this year where somebody said, yeah, I can see what you're doing, and la. And I would like to put myself forward as a non-exec, but I don't need one. I've got everything sorted. And that was sort of, ego sort of overload there. And I think they didn't really understand what we're about. And if you think you can do everything on your own, then that's not going to make you quite a good non-exec, because you'll probably want to go in and tell people what to do. And so really we're looking for the attributes where people listen and they try and understand something, and they're very, they think about things a lot as well. So, but so to answer your question, they sort of make themselves known, and we're very polite, and we say, yes, okay, you could be a potential non-exec. But just what you're touching on there is another interesting point. Many more people want to be non-execs than there are places for them. So there's quite a competitive market there. And what we're doing with Boardcircle is we're really working the demand side. So we're trying to persuade companies of the value of taking on a non-exec. And we know that we can always fill a space then, either from another company in our pool, which is what we're really trying to do, but also looking outside of our pool as well.
What about from the non-exec's point of view? I mean, is there learning for them as well?
Yeah.
What do they get back?
They get a tremendous amount back. And so we did a survey last year, and we spoke to quite a few executives who have been non-execs, and we got some absolutely tremendous feedback about the experience. And they just got so much out of it. And one of the things they found is that they've probably got about 6 months to get their act together. So they might join, they become in as a respected other director, they join the board, and they learn about the company, but they've probably got no more than 6 months to really start contributing well. And so they have a learning curve to go through. One of those is actually they've got to learn how to work differently, because they don't have this authority, so they have to be very collaborative. they also have to have a lot of tact and diplomacy, because they might see something that's not quite working well, or they might see some issue with the team dynamics and the leadership team. So they've got to find ways around that to bring the issue out into the open without putting people's noses out of joint. So it's a tremendous experience in how you lead, and I think that's one of the prime things that people get out of it.
Are there frustrations because they're not there all the time, that they may be only going in 1, 2, 3 times a month, or maybe just going in for board meetings as such? Are there frustrations that they sometimes will just go in, they touch, and really can't have any impact on the business at all?
I don't think so, actually. I think in the companies that work well with their non-exec directors, they have great connection with them. So they might not be there physically all the time, but they're there on the end of a telephone, or they can email. And so there is always that contact. One of the things that a non-exec can do as well for companies, they give that company some of their mind share. So they might be lying in the bath and they're thinking about that company, and something might just come to them. And particularly when they've come in as an outside, sort of from the outside, and they're quite objective, they might come up with something that's really quite important. So it's not so much about the physical time that they're present, it's also about that mind space that they give to that company.
Is there a profile of a non-exec director that works the best? I mean, we have people who start businesses and maybe are entrepreneurial and then grow a business and end up being on the board of an entrepreneurial business that they've founded. Are they the kind of people that make good non-execs, or I mean, who makes a good non-exec director? I mean, what's the profile?
I think they could make a good non-exec director, but they have to adjust the role. They have to realise that they're not there in charge. It's not their baby anymore, or it's somebody else's baby. So they have to adjust to the role.
And that can be difficult sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, and there are training courses around that people can go on to learn about the role, and there's lots of places where you can learn about sort of the details of the role. I mean, I think one of the things is it probably boosts you in different ways at becoming a non-exec, because you really need to learn about corporate governance a bit more. So you might have in the past just responded to correspondence from Companies House and not really thought about it too much. But I think if you become a non-exec, it's time really to investigate what corporate governance looks like in a small business, and to start thinking about how the board should be operating, what it should be doing, maybe what it shouldn't be doing, how it should be spending its time. So I think differently about the role is important.
Now, where can they go to get that kind of information? I know the CBI do something, don't they?
Yeah, so probably the primary place around directors and director training is the Institute of Directors, but also the CBI have a focus on medium-sized businesses and small businesses as well, and they've been producing a checklist on governance. So that includes a number of things, just to sort of take a temperature really of where you are on governance.
I mean, it's quite a document actually. A formal board is in place and meets regularly, so that important matters are not forgotten while urgent matters are being dealt with. A robust structure is supported by good board processes and constructive challenge. Succession plans are in place so that the business can continue smoothly and with the right skills. I mean, that is the kind of checklist you want. The checklist, by the way, you can find at the CBI. If you put in cbi.org.uk and then look for 7 smart things growing companies do, and then just follow through on that, and you'll find the governance checklist.pdf there. This checklist will help you assess the current underpinning of your business. It looks at matters such as building a strong board, getting independent advice, managing risk and planning for succession. It's a cracking document actually, isn't it?
It's very good, and what they've tried to do is just make it a very simple checklist, and there's things there. There's probably there's a lot of detail beyond those things. And I think getting that formal board in place is a good thing, because you might have at the moment, if you're a small company, say, or a medium-sized company, you might have lots of management meetings, but there's a point where I think you need to spend that time meeting as a board and talking a little bit more about the far future, talking about your strategy, and doing that on a regular basis. And I think having that formal board structure in place helps you have something that looks into the future but also deals with the difficult issues as well.
I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, if somebody wants to be a non-exec director, they should obviously talk to you guys.
Yeah.
But who else can they talk to? Can they talk to the CBI? Will they give them advice as well?
I think more CBI is doing a lot on governance, more specifically on being a non-exec is the Institute of Directors. They do a lot. And around the country they do lots of lots of events around governance for small businesses. So if you're a member of the IOD, and even if you're not, you can have a look at their events and find something that will probably inform you about non-executive directors. And
there's some good information actually when it comes to the IOD if you go onto their website as well, obviously at iod.com, developing / board development, but board development, IOD, board development, executive coaching. I mean, it's all there. Once again, lots and lots of information. I suppose this gives you the information that you need to have to make an intelligent view on whether this is going to be the right direction for you in your career, because it is a career path, isn't it too?
It can be. There's an expression called a plural career, which means somebody becomes a non-exec in one company and then another one. They're normally doing that on a paid basis, different, a little bit different to what we're trying to do in Boardcircle, but they build a career out of it, and there's some very professional, good non-executives in doing that work. It's
all right, well listen, we'll come back and we're going to talk now about what a business should be expecting and how they make certain that they're in the right place to have a non-exec director, whether it's going to be beneficial to them. So we'll be talking about that in just a few moments' time. My guest today is Martin Hawley, founder of Boardcircle, which helps small and medium-sized companies find themselves a non-exec director. Now, there's a couple of things taking place over the next couple of months that we just want to keep you informed about. You've got the Business Networking Show is going to be taking place in Wolverhampton on Friday, the 18th of September. Great news about that. All the stands are sold out, by the way. It's going to be a really good networking event there. You can book your tickets online here at the moment. In fact, we recently recorded the 4Networking 4N TV program, and there is a discount code on that program if you want to come along. Tickets for this particular show are normally £20. You can save yourself £5 off the cost of admission. Go and watch the 4N TV program. You'll find it on our website at Business Connections Live. But this is going to be a great show. We're going to be broadcasting live from the show for the entire day, sponsored, as you can see, by All Day PA, our good friends there, Ruben Singh and Co, and also Zero as well. And both Ruben's been on the programme, and also the team at Zero, they're going to be on the show in the future too. Got some good speakers coming along. Gary Turner from Zero, of course. Gary's going to be on the show, as I said, in a couple of weeks' time. Brad Burton, Chris Ducker, and a full speaker auditorium staging everything there. Look, some great speakers. Oh, look at that. Jason Dutton, Ian Dixon, Debbie Huxon, Terry Cooper and me. We're just some of the speakers that are going to be taking place. And of course, we've got the Media Zone, which is Business Connections Live. It's going to be a cracking event. If you do want to go along, you can actually go onto the website. You can see there that all the stand space is gone, but if you do want to come along, you can find out all the details. Web address is the businessnetworkingshow.info if you want to come along to the Business Networking Show, and that's taking place in Wolverhampton at Wolverhampton Racecourse on Friday the 18th of September. Another show that's taking place a couple of months after that is this one, the Business Show. 3rd and 4th of December 2015, we're going to be there as well in some way or other. Nice to see that Tucker Sullivan's going to be there as well. I was watching him last night on Dragon's Den. Let me tell you, I know everything that I'm talking about. He's going to have to get a new script, that man. Piers Linney's there, Jamie Barber, Brad's going to be there as well, and a number of other guests. Now, Charlie Mullins, OBE, he's one of the keynote speakers at the Great Business Show that's taking place at Olympia. And Charlie is going to be, I hope he doesn't mind me calling him Charlie, but I'm sure he'll be okay, he'll just hit me. Charlie Mullins is going to be on the programme next week. And you can also, if you want to find out a little bit about him, Bog Standard Business, how I took the plunge and became the millionaire plumber, Charlie Mullins, OBE. I love it. Well done, Charlie. We'll have a bit of a laugh about that. Now, Charlie's on the show next week. He's also a keynote speaker at the Business Show on the 3rd and the 4th of December 2015. That's going to be at Olympia in London. Great to have your company as always. We are live right now. It is week number 92, programme 92. And we are talking today to Martin Hawley from Boardcircle. Now, Martin, we've talked about maybe the skills, the attributes that somebody who feels they want to be a non-exec director needs to consider. But what about when it comes to the businesses themselves, what do they need to consider? And what are let's start with I love this, let's start with the big mistakes that companies make when they start talking about non-exec directors. Where do they go wrong initially, do you feel?
I think if they, one of the things is if they zero in on somebody who's already been a non-executive director and they don't look at wider in the field, I think non-exec director is about a role that is played, and it's something that can be easily learned. I'm not to dismiss that there's important things to learn there, but it's something that people can pick up. An intelligent executive director can pick up the needs of being a non-exec director. So I think certainly look wider than just somebody who's already got that experience is the number one thing to do. We would say as well, get somebody who really understands where you are in your business. So if you're a company maybe turning over a few million, you've got 30 or 40 people, then it's not necessarily going to be a good idea for you to have somebody who's come from a corporate background, is maybe used to in being in charge of a division of thousands of people and billions of turnover. So I think get somebody who really understands your business. Also think about where you want your business to go. So think about, are there any gaps in your board where you think you might need a bit of a skill gap? So as well as the reflective side of a non-exec and just their wise counsel and reflecting back to you what you're saying, actually they may have a particular skill. And so one of the interesting things we found in our early days is that one of the skills that people are quite interested in is sales. Not in a, oh, I'm going to help you sell, but more about how strategically you develop your sales. So have you got the right structures in on the selling side, and also how do you structure the rest of the business to support that sales effort as well? So things are working in harmony. So that's one of the skills that we've noticed in our early days has been quite in demand. And sales is the lifeblood of any business, so perhaps that's no surprise.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because fundamentally that's what a business is all about. No sales, no business, effectively, isn't it? And it seems to be the weakness that many businesses have. There's so much money invested into sales training and getting people up to speed. And to have somebody who comes into your business who has maybe the short track to getting success is really what any business would be looking for.
Yes, I think so. But from a non-exec, they're not going to get somebody who's just going to go and sell for them.
No.
What they're going to get is somebody who's going to think about the framework of their sales. And if they've got ambitious plans, so they say they're going to want to double in size, or that a few million, they dream of being 20 million, you know, what sort of infrastructure have they got to get in place to do that scale up? And that's a very sort of sales director level of thinking there. And they can, and there's lots of great sales directors there. So I think that's been a reason for perhaps our early experience in that. But people also look for other skills. They might look for skills around marketing. Maybe digital marketing is very important in this day and age. So there might be somebody, they take on a non-exec with a very general ability, but they also might look for a specific skill that they have. Or even that they've been they've coming from a company that's 1 or 2 years down the line from where they are, so and where they would like to be. So somebody can help share their experience of growing and scaling up a company.
Do you sometimes find companies who see this as a way of getting cheap consultancy?
Inevitably, there's a bit of free consultancy in there. There's no doubt about that. But it's really about a long-term relationship. So you could get some consultants in and be advised on that. And there's plenty of people offering their services around that. But actually, when you take on a non-exec, they should be with you for a good 3 years, I would say. And so they become part of your board, they're part of your family, and they want that business to succeed. In fact, it's one of their duties to promote the success of that business. So yes, you're getting value out of them in different ways. One of them might be a bit of free consultancy. Another might be that they know they have good connections in a particular area. Not necessarily, and I wouldn't, put all your hopes on that somebody's going to be connected and get you a great sale. But that's something that some people can bring.
Everybody these days talks about ROI, don't they? Return on investment.
Yep.
So how do you make certain, if you're a small business owner and you've got your board there, or you've got your board group there, that you do get your your maximum ROI on your investment into your non-exec director, because you are investing time as well. You're going to be investing familiarity, a bit of education. We said earlier on that it goes two ways. Is there, in the same way as you have a business plan when you start your business and you take that to the bank, do you put together nearly a kind of a business plan on the way that you would like to use a non-exec and to use your board more effectively?
I think the non-exec coming in, it depends what you've got there already. I think the non-exec coming in will sort of help create that jointly. So they'll be able to have a conversation with you about, first of all, they need to understand the business quite well, but then they can have that conversation with the board about where they're going and how they can fit in and how they can help. So I wouldn't necessarily expect people to have a plan. They might have some ideas around where they can
at least a discussion document or something to say this is what we're hoping to do at the business. Maybe that's giving more of an insight to the non-exec.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea actually. I think to write down these ideas is the first step in articulating them and airing them for discussion, and that really helps. So in your decision making about things. So clearly, yes, I think if they came in, if you've got a list of bullets where you see the fit there. In our business, what we're finding is we have an initial conversation with, let's say, the managing director, and that leads to a number of issues. And we say, okay, a non-exec of this type might be able to help you, and then we look for a person with those characteristics, those abilities, that experience to fit that role. So in a sense, we're doing that by through the job description. But what you're saying there is an excellent idea. That would be a way
you can use it.
Yeah.
All right, absolutely free. A little bit of consultancy on my part. What about the length of time that a non-exec stays with the business? Is it a bit like, you become a non-exec, you go onto the board of a particular company, then are you there forever? Or is it short term? Or can companies nearly come along and cherry pick and say, right, for the next 6 months, that non-exec will bring those skills in, and then that non-exec will bring in. Can they do things like that? And do people do things like that?
Yes, interesting question. I think if you go back to some of the large company discussions around corporate governance, and there's generally a view that non-execs can outstay their welcome, and it's more about they go native, so you start to lose your objectivity. So I've come up with just from various reading around that probably 3 years is a good time to move on, because you add a lot of value, you're still objective, and you haven't quite gone native. That said, if you look at some of the big crises that we've gone through in recent years, people have said they didn't have the experience there. We had the longevity of, they couldn't think back 10 years to what was going on 10 or 15 years ago, because they'd cleared out some people. So there were arguments for people having, knowing some sort of history about the company and the market, certainly in larger companies. But I think maybe in a smaller company, maybe 3 years or so is a good time to start thinking, is this relationship still giving us what it should do in terms of objectivity? But you could just have a cracking non-exec and you just want to hold on to them forever. So I'm not really judging anybody who does that, but it just, you need to think about it at least, I think so.
Is there, first of all, the role itself as a non-exec on somebody's board, is it normally paid for? Is it a voluntary position, or is it a paid position?
It's a mixture actually, and certainly on charity, there's charity boards, people tend to be voluntary. It's very rare that you get somebody paid on a charity board. In small businesses, people are paid varying amounts. So there are some statistics around that. What we try and do with Boardcircle actually is because we want to encourage the take-up of non-execs, we wanted to lower the threshold cost of doing that, and just for people to try it. So our proposition is for executive directors to volunteer their time in the first instance to serve on a board, and really do it for the professional development experience, because the money probably doesn't make that much difference to their personal circumstances if they're already an executive director. And it will make such a bonus to them in terms of what they bring back to their own business, that we think that money side of it will at some point come back to them anyway. But it's really about the professional development experience that we're selling. Otherwise, if you want to get a paid non-exec job, there are recruitment agencies around. You've just got to get the experience and prove your worth, and then find that non-exec that's paying.
If I've got a board of directors around the table, is it right or wrong to have more than one non-exec? I mean, can I have a couple of non-execs on my board?
Yeah, you certainly could actually. And again, if you go to the large company, the combined code on governance, they suggest a sort of a split with a slight dominance on the non-execs in large company boards. So you might have 4 executive directors and 5 non-executive directors. So the idea really is to get balance and challenge in the large company sense. I think in the smaller company it's different. You 1 or 2, great. But you don't want lots of them. I think you need to scale it with the size of the company really. But certainly we've actually one company we were dealing with. We thought that there were 2 non-execs that we could have placed there, and we even suggested that. We said actually there are 2 different aspects of your business, and we think that
take them both.
Take them both actually. So they didn't take them both, but maybe who knows downstream that might happen. So it's one or 2. But I wouldn't, for a small company, I wouldn't overstock them with non-execs.
I tell you what, if you've been thinking about being a non-exec director, or if you are a business at the moment and you're saying to yourself, we need that, we just need those additional pair of eyes that come in from the outside with maybe some additional experience or alternative experience to where we are. Sometimes we become very bunker-like, don't we? We find ourselves in the bunker and we can't see the wood from the trees. And sometimes somebody coming in from outside who's been perhaps maybe in exactly the same situation can identify the wood from the trees and can help you differentiate and get you through the forest that can be a real problems out there sometimes, and they can really help. If you've never contemplated it before, maybe a non-exec director for your business would be the ideal way forward to actually help grow and maybe make your company more successful. We mentioned earlier on, you said earlier on that around about the £5 million mark is when non-execs. Can a company be too small for a non-exec director?
No, in fact, startups have non-execs, but they're not. They might be technically a non-exec, but they're not necessarily doing the same job as a non-exec in a company that's maybe turning over 1 million or 5 million, and they're probably doing a lot more mentoring than they are thinking about sort of more of the board governance type things. So.
And is this where you typically would see that non-exec then maybe making an investment or becoming part of that particular business?
Yeah, that's a good point actually, that you get investing non-exec directors, and they're on your board, they're an advisor, and they might invest as well. So that's a fairly common way of doing things. And I think that's great for a startup. Startups can get mentors as well. So there's a whole. If you're a startup, a micro business, there's lots of places you can go to get that sort of advice. The reason we don't focus on it in Boardcircle is we want to offer the non-exec a good sort of professional development experience as well. And I think it's more challenging as you get a larger company in terms of the issues, in terms of the scope of the issues that you get to look at. So I think for us from a professional development point of view, we're looking at companies that are maybe about 10 people, million plus turnover, is when we think a Boardcircle non-exec might really help them and also get something back for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do in just a moment. We'll talk a little bit about how companies and also non-execs should approach you and how they should prepare themselves before talking to you so that they're saying the right things. So you can give a few hints and tips on that just very quickly. We'll talk more about being a non-exec and what businesses, why a business should have a non-exec director in just a few moments' time. By the way, if you're enjoying the programme and you think to yourself, it's fantastic, I'd love a programme like this about my business. Well, you can. If you're sending out newsletters at the moment, or you're sending out email campaigns, they say the email campaigns now are getting less and less effective. In fact, a lot of people now are beginning to write letters again because that gets more of a response back, the old days of mass mail. But what about sending video out? What about sending a program out that's all about your business? It gives you an opportunity to engage with your audience for a start, turns your readers into viewers. It also gives you an opportunity to get your personality over there and to say more about your business. They say a picture paints 1,000 words. Well, why not use a whole load of pictures? In fact, 25 pictures a second would be rather good. Think of the number of words you're getting over there. You could have a program just like this one. We call the product, it's something that we will help businesses do. We call it Your Brand TV. And here's just a few of the reasons why Your Brand TV is such a good idea for your business. Still sending out conventional newsletters to customers?
Do you just want a more engaging way to talk to your customers and employees?
Hello, I'm Steve Hyland.
And I'm Linda Bazant of Business Connections Live.
Your Brand TV is a completely branded television show that can be streamed live or delivered on demand to your niche audience. Be the first in your market to capitalise on the online media gold rush that is using online video to effectively deliver news, information and education to key personnel and clients.
Video attracts 2 to 3 times as many monthly visitors. It doubles their time spent on your site and has a 150% increase in organic traffic from search engines. Large networking organisations are already utilising the power of Your Brand TV to market, promote and publicise to their members and groups across the UK.
Your programme will be branded with your corporate colours and logos in your own broadcast quality network studio.
You can choose the format. It can be news or magazine or interview in its look and feel.
You can have live guests on your show or you can Skype them in.
You can stream the show live or on demand, so it's available for catch-up.
This is a chance to deliver your message in a new exciting format that will allow your business to cut through the noise and stand out from the crowd and engage your workforce and customers. This is Your Brand TV.
To get more information on this fabulous opportunity to bring to life your corporate communications, contact us today at Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.
It's your own news and information programme. It could be especially for your business, for your product, for your services, whatever it is that your business does. You can promote it more effectively. You can have your own guest presenters on. You can bring your customers on to tell your clients what they're getting out of your product or your service. It's a great way. It's, I suppose, it's social endorsement is what you can do with it too. It's a very, very effective way of marketing and bringing your business forward. And of course, you can stick it up on your YouTube channel. And what's the third largest search engine out there? It's YouTube. And who's YouTube owned by? Google. So Google love it too. All those things. Use video, promote your business and have a word with us here at Business Connections Live. It's called Your Brand TV. You can get more details if you go to this email address. There it is, studio at businessconnectionslive.com. Just address it to either Linda Bazant or myself, Steve Hyland. If you want to, you can just pick up the phone and give us a call as well, for that matter, on 01784 256 777. And if you just want to be in the know about what's happening here at Business Connections Live, you can also follow us on Twitter at BCL Business TV. In fact, we've got another YouTube business channel launching under that title very shortly, which will show all the short parts of the programme, all the little mini podcasts, as we call them. We used to call them Best Bites. We're now calling them weekly podcasts, and you can find all the 5-minute short versions on BCL Business TV, and that'll be happening in a couple of weeks' time. My guest today is Martin Hawley. He's the founder of Boardcircle, along with his 2 associates. They go out there and they find people who would make perfect non-exec directors, and then they put them in touch and they connect them up to small to medium scale enterprises, to large organisations who are looking for non-exec directors. And it's an interchange of knowledge, it's an interchange of ideas. One will learn from the other and the other will learn from the other. It really is a complete cross of information and knowledge that is taking place at this time. So Martin, how do I get ready? How do I prepare myself to come to you to make certain that I'm in the best possible place if I want to be a non-exec director? What are the key things that I need to be talking to you about then?
Well, we want to see that you've got a good executive set of skills. You've had some experience as a statutory director, and you understand your directing responsibility as well. So that's something that we're really looking for. And that you've got a good career, that you've managed people, and you maybe have a particular skill as well. So, but we're not trying to pigeonhole people too much there. And we also look for not always the usual suspects as well. So we're trying to have a diverse approach and look at people differently.
And would it be easy for you if I prepare a kind of, is it a CV you're looking for from me?
Yes,
because that's going to show your business knowledge, isn't it? But it's a little bit more than that. There's a bit of magic on the side of the CV, really.
Yes,
that makes you a good non-exec.
And it really is just the CV. And I think there's a sort of a magic 20%, if you like, which is about what do you contribute at the board level. You know, what do you deliver as a director? And so there are skills that we would look for, and we would hope that people are quite well financially literate. So they're literate with the accounts, so they can go to another company and they can look at the accounts and they can ask questions about it and understand where things have come from. And I think that's quite an important aspect of it, that they have some evidence of their experience in developing strategy and executing that strategy, and that they're aware of perhaps the regulations in their industry and the impacts and issues around the regulations in another industry. Often, though, it can be good, and it's been recommended to us as that you might want, if you're in an industry that's heavily regulated, that you look for a board position in one that isn't so heavily regulated, and vice versa. So, in looking for a board position, you might be looking to get a different type of experience. You might be in a completely different sector, but where you've got some core directing skills that you can transfer into the role of a non-exec director.
When they walk in the door, can you tell?
I think, we can tell from a conversation, actually. And my co-director, Kath, she's very good at working out, where people have got their real skills and particularly around their emotional intelligence. That they need to have high emotional intelligence as well. So if we can have a good conversation with them and they're articulate and intelligent and they've got great experience, then they're ticking a lot of the boxes for us, and the rest is more around their experience.
And from the point of view of a business approaching you, what should they be looking for? How should they prepare themselves to talk to you? Once again, what kind of things should they have on their list?
I think they don't need to do too much preparation. I think if they just have a sense of question about whether non-exec, well, issues that they might have with their company about where they're going, and they may be thinking, okay, well, we've got our ideas, but how do we test them? We're not sure, how robust are our ideas. Or they may have a number of issues which come up time and time again when they have their own board meetings, and they might think that actually a change in their leadership dynamic, in their top team dynamic, might just help them get further. So there could be a complete range of issues that they might start to think, can a non-exec help us? And really they have to come with that question, can a non-exec help us? The rest, we can have that as a discussion, we can talk about those issues, and we can say, whether a non-exec might be able to help them, and what sort of non-exec, if they were going to help them, that they ought to look for. So there's a whole conversation around that there. I think possibly a general question for a business is about where you're going. And, if you're a founder, director, and you've built up a great business, but every year seems a little bit like last year, and you'd love to get out of that business maybe, or extract yourself a little bit, maybe think about a sale in some years' time and do something different, I think you should really be thinking strongly about having a formal board structure, having a non-exec, because if you're integral to the business, two things can happen. One is you can make it difficult to extract yourself when you really want to. And the other thing is it will really lower the price you get for your business if you don't have good governance in there. So, and I think a lot of businesses who buy other businesses and invest do very nicely because they recognise what is essentially a good business that doesn't have great governance. So they can come in and they can make a killing on that. So you might be happy with the income you get.
So a little bit of preparation, and that will maybe increase the value for your exit plan.
Absolutely. I think, there's... we're talking about non-execs, and non-execs can drive good governance into a company, so they can do all sorts of things and think about what good governance looks like in your company, so that when you finally do want to sell and an investor comes in, if they see a very well-run company, that it's got good market projections and it's doing very well, then you'll also get they'll be happy with that company and you'll get a good price out of them for it. So.
Well, listen, it's been fascinating today. Really enjoyed everything that you've talked about. It has been just a real insight. I suppose a lot of businesses don't think about non-execs, or they think about it, but maybe in the wrong way. So it's been a real insight into the whole area of non-execs. What I'd like you to do in just a few moments' time is I'd like you to look down one of our cameras here and maybe the takeaways that we learned from the program. I'll just ask the producer, have we got time for our little bit of marketing advice? I'll tell you what we'll do. Because we talked about it earlier on, one of the areas, of course, that non-execs sometimes are asked to bring their experience in is in the area of sales and marketing of a business. And you said that earlier on. We had a guest on the program a while back, just to allow Martin to collect his thoughts for a few moments. Warren Knight joined us on the program a little while back. He was talking about the whole world of marketing and sales and how to increase it. It was a fascinating show. Great show. Just to give you a bit of an insight into that while Martin collects his thoughts, just have a look at Warren Knight on Business Connections Live. My guest today is Warren Knight, a social media speaker and SME growth coach and author of Think at Digital First, or hashtag Digital First, a step-by-step guide designed for creative entrepreneurs.
I think because entrepreneurialism has been in my blood from a very young age, and going through the fun of growing, the pain of growth, and the pain of losing a business and then finding another niche and growing that again, I've definitely earned my stripes over the years. You are the most important, cog in that engine that's turning, and if you're not strong, if your belief system isn't congruent from the ground up, and everything that you're saying, doing, talking about, and coming from that place of honesty that we touched on earlier, it's just not going to happen for you. You can be an amazing people person who is very passionate about what they do. People believe in you because of the belief that you have around what you're doing. To me, it's about building a business with strong foundations and making sure that those foundations, everything's been thought about, whether it's about you running the business as a solopreneur, if you like, but understanding who do you need to bring around you to help you with that business moving forward. When I work with business owners, they've got to want to have that vision. They've got to want to know where they're going, how they're going to get there, and what it looks like. But what they don't always have are the stepping stones to get to that place. I think the biggest pain, if you like, is that loss of direction. So I love working with companies that are maybe about 3 years old, got themselves to a certain turnover, have a nice presence in the market at the moment, but really want to take the business from one level to another level. So understanding what your unique selling proposition is all about you as an individual, what your team looks like. And really, when I talk about that helicopter view of the market, is analysing that market at each stages of your growth. Google is, a massive search engine, and Google can be the make or break of a business. You can really start thinking about the type of content that you push out online that matches not only what that person wants to read, but the way that person is searching. Are you a busy fool? Because how much time are you actually focusing working on the business rather than working in the business? When you have virtual assistants, as long as you are very time-driven, brief-driven, action-orientated driven, then that helps that individual to get that work done and move on. But when it comes to business, you've got to stay focused on that task, get it finished, and then move on. The focus of the keywords. When you have the focus of the keywords about your business, then you can take those keywords and apply them to every single piece of content that you push out online. You've got to have a database, so you've got to have a CRM, you've got to have information on a regular basis about your customers, and that's really key. For me, one of the best tools that I use on a daily basis is Hootsuite. Great tool, you reach so many platforms and push that content out there. But I think the third one, which is really important that companies forget on a regular basis, is the analytics, is analyze that traffic that's coming through to your business. If you have a great website and 67% of that traffic's coming from the States and your target audience is the UK, what's that telling you about the content that you're pushing out? Hi, I'm Warren Knight. I am the author of Think Digital First, and I'm an SME growth coach. I think the three key things for me to be able to help you is actually the first one being you. Focus on you, own your time. It's okay to say no. If a meeting's not going to get you to the point that's going to help you grow your business, it's okay to say no and stay focused on the things that are the intelligent things that are going to drive the business forward. The second thing for me is really know technology, because the technology process can help you save time, it can help you grow your audience and your database, and get it to be focused on sales and marketing. So use the tools that are out there that are going to help you market the business, i.e. promote it like Hootsuite, and actually then use the tools that are going to help you through that sales process, i.e. MailChimp, for instance, or some of the other ones that we've spoken about today. They're going to take people through the sales process, so the customer acquisition journey. And the third thing is just do it. Get up and do it. Don't worry about being perfect. Just get out there and do it and learn from your mistakes. So I'm Warren Knight. Thank you very much.
Great information when it comes to marketing and sales. My guest today has been Martin Hawley, founder of Boardcircle, helping small businesses and medium-sized businesses get themselves non-exec directors and to get themselves ready to be a non-exec director too, for that matter. As always, at the end of the show, we always ask you for the takeaways that we should be thinking about. Camera number one is all yours. Say your name, say the name of your company, take a breath, and really the airwaves are all yours. Martin, take it away.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, I'm Martin Hawley. I'm the founder of Boardcircle. Boardcircle helps small and medium-sized companies to share some of their director time as non-execs in other companies. This helps a company get a non-executive director that helps support their growing business, but it also serves the professional development needs of directors. The reason we do this is we think that non-execs can add great value to growing businesses, and there's a tremendous benefit from them. Having an independent voice on your board can really help in your decision making and will generally raise your game. Equally, it's brilliant experience for an executive director to become a non-executive, and the governance skills that they learn from another business, they can put back into their own business. So it's a win-win situation for both companies. So we believe that all companies really should be having non-exec directors, and that at some point in their career, all directors should experience being a non-executive director. It's not just about the better governance, I mean that's important in itself, but from better governance becomes better business performance, and that adds to the bottom line. So that's really the important thing. Where can you do this? Well, we're a national organisation, so we can help anywhere within the UK. We also believe though that your non-exec directors should be local, so that they can pop in from time to time. It's not just at formal board meetings that they might turn up. So you can have a close contact and a good, strong relationship with them. Now's a good time to be doing this. The economy is growing, there's lots of opportunity out there now. So it's a good time to position your business for that growth, and a non-exec director can help you shape your thinking and help you shape your company that's ready to exploit all of those opportunities. How to do this? Well, contact Boardcircle. Our website is www.boardcircle.me, and you can register. It's free to register. Just get in touch with us. We can have a good conversation about how a non-exec can help your board. So that's Martin Hawley or Kath Amory to contact, and the website is www.boardcircle.me. Thank you.
There we are. Thank you very much to Martin. It's been a fascinating show as always. Just do a little bit of the housekeeping here at the end. On next week's show, our guest is Charlie Mullins, OBE, on how he worked his way up from apprentice level after leaving school at 15 with no qualifications through sheer hard graft and determination to conquer the plumbing world. If you haven't heard of Pimlico Plumbers, then where have you been? You must have been living under a rock. Future programmes include Steve Mills, the Bruno Marketeer. He's going to be back telling us how to get more marketing at a great price. Brad Burton, Gary Turner of Zero, they're going to be talking about TBNS. That's the TBNS show 2015 at Wolverhampton, and we've got Steve Nichols coming back in the near future talking about technology. Don't forget as well, if you'd like to sponsor the weekly programme or upcoming business shows, then please contact either myself, Steve Hyland. You can do that by simply contacting us here on the email Or you can give us a call if you want on 01784 256 777, or you can follow us on Twitter as well. And don't forget Your Brand TV too, if you want to have your own business TV channel for your business, if you want to get some programs out there. And that probably wraps up today's show. Thank you very much indeed for your company today. Martin, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. A real insight today. Hope you found it as enjoyable as I have. Until we do it all again next Monday at midday, take care and successful business. Till then, bye for now. Bye-bye.
Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.